Welcome back to CuboldCast. This is our fourth and final episode in our mini Halloween series. Today we'll be talking about the newly released horror game, Amnesia Rebirth. Have you guys watched any horror movies this month?
Actually, no. I still got to get into that.
Yeah, it's weird. Every year I'm always like, okay, I gotta make a list for horror movies to watch during Halloween, and I never do it.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing with Christmas. Like I cram them in the last 2 days.
Mm-hmm.
I don't watch many Christmas movies, honestly.
Yeah,
But-
because they're all the same.
Yeah,
Sometimes.
yeah. Depends
Most of
on
our
the one.
horror movies
I like
too.
the Jim Carrey Grinch.
Yes.
I love
Mhm.
that part where he's in the mirror and he's like, ooh, and he's got that he's going into town and he has that weird Swedish guys. Have you guys seen it?
I have seen it a while ago. Yeah, I don't
It's
remember
funny.
much of
I
it
love,
though.
yeah, Jim Carrey. He's really funny in that one.
I mean, my dad always has like this list of movies he watches towards Christmas, like Home Alone.
Oh, I love.
Oh,
Oh,
Home
we
Alone.
watch Home Alone more than anything. I think
Yeah, I think so.
Oh,
yeah.
Home
have you
Alone,
guys-
Christmas Story. That's another one.
Christmas
Yeah,
Story is a
yeah.
good one. Yeah. Have you guys watched Jingle All the Way?
I have seen that.
I've
yeah.
seen it before, but I don't really remember anything.
Yeah.
Is that with Arnold?
It is with Arnold.
Yes, I remember that
It's
with the
funny.
toy.
It's-
He's trying to get the toy for his son.
Yeah.
But Halloween movies. What Halloween
Yeah.
movies do you watch?
Yeah. No, it's same with you guys. I haven't actually watched any. I think I watched one, which was the house across or down. Man, I can't even think of the title. It's House Across the Street or something like that.
House at the End of the Street.
Oh yeah, maybe it's that.
I've heard that name.
Yeah, it was okay. It basically, if you could imagine, what's his name? Bates. What's his first name?
Norman.
Norman. Yeah, Norman Bates kind of idea. It's similar to that, although modernized and doesn't really pull it off too well.
Yeah, I haven't heard of it really. I've heard
yeah.
the name, but didn't know anything about it.
It was very 2000 horror movie esque.
Oh, okay.
Like,
yeah.
I don't know how to explain it, but you know that period of time, like the mid 2000s, where there was just like a influx of horror movies that were all like mediocre.
That still is happening, really.
Yeah,
Yes.
true.
Like, there's a whole bunch of horror movies that release every year. My hand just got caught in these lights here.
You know what I
um,
want to watch again though?
What?
I want to watch what is it? The Sixth Sense and Signs again.
Ooh,
Actually, yeah.
Those two movies. Are
There's
so
there's
good.
another one by M.
Signs
Night
was a good one.
Shyamalan
It's
that I really
Unbreakable.
liked. Yeah, that's Unbreakable. I love that movie.
yeah,
Didn't he have another horror movie though?
yeah. I know.
He
what you-
might have.
no, it's the one that linked with it. Is that what you're talking about?
Are you thinking of Split?
Is that
No, there's three.
Yeah, I don't
three
know
of
if
those.
Split is a
There's
horror movie. It's
Unbreakable.
more of a
It's a
Thriller.
thriller. Yeah.
Unbreakable, Split, and then what was the last one? There was one more.
Signs.
No,
you
the,
said
the
Signs.
one where it didn't really do too well.
Oh,
It was-
Glass.
Glass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was so
I didn't even watch it because I heard about that.
the ending when I was watching that movie. I think I watched it in the theaters. I couldn't. I thought it was a joke. The
Mhm.
ending, like I don't know if you guys know what happens. I won't say it.
I
but
do. Yeah.
I kind of know what happens, but
It was the lamest. I mean, they destroyed the characters. Like,
I mean,
in such a
the
lame
first
way.
movie came out in what, the 90s?
no, it was like early 2000s.
Okay. Yeah, but this movie was like 20 years in the making, this sequel. And they hyped it up so much.
Yeah.
And then he tried
Well,
to
it was a sequel of the sequel
yeah.
because Split was a sequel of Unbreakable.
Oh right.
And then Glass was a
Well,
sequel
that was
of
the
Split.
kind of twist at the end of Split.
Yeah.
I don't get it, man. I don't know who thought it was a good idea to do that. I mean,
I don't know.
that's terrible.
But I do want to watch Sixth Sense and Signs again.
Yeah, those sound like pretty good movies.
see dead people.
Well, to watch.
Get your
especially.
toes licked by beautiful women.
Oh yeah, the best line in Signs. So weird.
Yeah.
I have watched. Last night I watched like 3 short films on YouTube that were pretty good horror ones.
Those
One of 'em-
dystopian ones you were talking about?
No, those aren't. Well, those aren't exactly horror, but those are very interesting. Yeah, if anyone wants to watch, some really interesting lore-packed short films on YouTube. There's a guy. There's a guy named on his channel's named Good Sound, I think, and he makes these animated short films, and they're all linked together, and they're about this dystopian city, and it's
Is it like salad fingers?
no, not like not like Salad Fingers, but it's weird. People are basically like brainwashed into thinking that they're living like the best. It's like the nuclear family or whatever. And then when people get too old, like 40 or something, past their I don't know what you call it, prime, I guess, or past a certain age, the parents wear these masks, and then they tape a sign on top of the mask that says ugly because they're too old now and they get killed.
It sounds like a Twilight Zone episode.
Yeah.
There was one episode where basically this dystopian future, there were like 3 or 4 different looks that people would be. And when they hit like the age 18 or something, they had to choose who they wanted to look like for the rest of their life. Like they get plastic surgery.
Huh.
And remember, the whole focus of the episode was this girl did not want to look like someone else. But at the very end of it, she ended up getting the surgery, and then she was happy about it. It's kind of weird.
Wait,
I love Twilight Zone.
what was
I
that
know.
movie? It came out like years ago. I forgot what it was, but it was like a movie. It was like a dystopian future, and everything was in black and white, and like everybody saw it in black and white or something.
And they took a drug.
Yeah, they took a drug every morning, and then one day, a kid was interested. He didn't take it, and then he started seeing color again. And then he was interested, and he was like talking to like the librarian or something about it. And then they were like really good friends or something. And then he decided to like see full color or something.
I've never seen it,
That
but I've
sounds
heard
really
of that.
interesting,
It-
actually.
I saw it a while ago. It was actually pretty good.
Huh.
I forgot what was it about.
Yeah,
though.
I remember hearing the premise, but I don't know what the movie
it was
is.
really
That sounds
cool.
really good, actually. Oh, one of the short films that I watched last night is actually really creepy. I'll give a general like idea of how it is, but essentially there's this box and this like a husband and wife, and they get this box, and basically it's a void. So like he drops a pencil in it, nothing happens, and he shines a light in it, you can't see the bottom. So the guy that gave him the box said that you can't keep your eyes off of the box or it'll move. So they look away and they look back, and there's like this guy that's like dripping wet, and you can see like just his eyes, and he's staring at them, and it's like so weird. He doesn't talk. So eventually, he tells his wife to keep looking at the box, or else that thing will move. And so he leaves and goes back, tries to go back to the other guy, and he calls him, and the guy's like, "No, like you have to keep your eyes on the box." So he goes back, and then like the lights are off and stuff like that, and then he goes downstairs, and he's like, it's really cool how they did this. It made like the viewer really tense, but there's one guy, he's like dripping wet for some reason. He came from the box, I guess, but he's like in the bathroom, and then he's looking at him, and then like he looks up, and there's like these dark figures like on top of the stairs. You can't really see them, but they're dripping wet. And so he's at the bottom of the stairs, and he's looking like left and right and like back and forth, because every time he looks at one of them, the other group will move. And then like he looks over and he sees the guy, his arms up, and his arm is on the light switch, or like on the light thing. So he's looking at him, and you can hear like the steps down the stairs, and he's looking at him because he doesn't want him to turn off the light. So you hear the steps down the stairs, but he's looking at the guy holding on the light because he doesn't want him to do it. So then he finally looks up, and then the light goes off, and the film ends. But it was like the way they did it was really well.
It sounds really cool.
Yeah,
Kind of like an SCP.
Yeah, actually, some of these short films, like I feel like in a full movie it wouldn't have enough content, but in a short film, some of them are pulled off really well.
Yeah.
So those are basically the extent of the horror movies that I've seen so far.
Mm-hmm.
But I definitely want to watch more before Halloween comes.
Yeah.
You sent some footage of Little Nightmares 2. I never watched it, but
Oh,
is that
yeah.
actual footage?
It's yeah, actually, it's the Little Nightmares 2 Halloween trailer. So it's still coming out I think late next year or something like that next year. But yeah, there is footage, and a lot of it looks really creepy, and it looks true to the first game.
I
Like-
saw someone playing it yesterday.
That's so weird. How does that even work?
I don't know. Somebody apparently got some
Did you watch-
early build of the game. It was like 30 minutes of him playing it.
Really?
Yeah.
That's half the game right there.
Nah,
Hopefully
I doubt
not.
it. I hope not.
Well, I mean, the first game was like 3
3.
hours. Well, yeah, it took
3 plus DLC.
Yeah.
But it looked really good.
Yeah, I think the whole like 2-player mechanic is actually going to be pulled off really well from what I see.
Is that multiplayer or you swap off characters?
I
It
don't
might be both.
It could,
That'd be
yeah,
cool.
it could be both. I know some games have done it to where if there isn't a second player, that it's like an AI that
Yeah, have you
follows you
ever?
around.
You've never played Unravel before, right?
No, I haven't.
The second one is just like that. Like, it's called Unravel 2.
You
and
have to
then
have a second player.
You don't have to.
I
Oh,
feel
okay.
like multiplayer Little Nightmares might fall short because part of it is you run around and try to hide from enemies. Well, what happens if both the players decide to go different directions?
Mm.
I know part of it might be the teamwork, but that's not the way Little Nightmares was. It
Yeah.
wasn't about teamwork.
It was about getting away from it.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely a fine line that they can definitely cross to the point where it doesn't work well, or if the AI, if they do have it to where the other person could be an AI, and the AI is like standing in the middle of the room, it just takes away like the horror aspect or whatever.
Yeah.
Because I'm guessing that the whatever's chasing you wouldn't really penalize you if the AI is standing there or something like that.
Wait,
Kinda like-
what if? I was gonna say, what if they don't make it split screen co-op? What if they make it multiplayer co-op? As in, you're not always with the other person.
Oh, that might be better.
I hope so. Yeah.
Because I feel like that would be so cool. Like, you could either choose 6 or the other one, the other person, and you get pulled away from each other, and you got to find each other. Or
Oh,
something
that would
like
be kind of cool. Yeah.
And you got
And you
to
got to
get
work
away
together on separate puzzles.
Yeah,
Kind of like Lego games, how certain people have to go to certain areas and do
Yeah.
that.
That would be
exactly.
cool, actually. Yeah.
you
Because
know,
you're alone for a certain amount of time.
What is that game? We Were Here. I don't know. You
Is that
didn't.
the puzzle one?
It was the puzzle one, but each person is in a different area, and you have walkie talkies, and you kind of have to help each other through each puzzle using your surroundings. It-
Yeah, I
it
heard
could
you
be
and
s-
Brian playing.
It
that.
was really fun, but it could be similar to that.
That would be cool.
Yeah.
I mean, I have faith in the studio. I mean, we'll see how it turns out. But I think from what I see, it looks good. But then again, I mean, I haven't played the full game, so it could fall short, like you say.
Mm-hmm. I mean, they did well with the DLC, so
Yeah.
a lot of times that'll kind of show what the next game will be like.
Mhm.
Because if they make a hit game and then they decide to make some DLC for that hit game, if the DLC falls flat, then that means they don't know how to replicate the success of the
Mhm.
original.
In the DLC, it came out in parts. It wasn't all released at once.
Yeah.
So
People were angry
they-
about that,
They
but
were, but I feel like they were actually working on making it good
Mhm.
after each DLC. Like, they released the first one, they spent like 4 or 5 months on the next one, and then 4 or 5 months on the next one. That actually made it good.
so they didn't rush the next game, which is good.
Yeah,
I will say that I hope that the next game doesn't have the same sort of open feel as
Yeah.
the last DLC, although it is in a way bigger area, so it could be possible. But the very last DLC was too open,
Yeah.
and a lot of people had issues with it, including me.
I gotta say, starting on the topic of Amnesia, I appreciated some of the linear aspects, like
Yeah.
completely linear.
yeah.
Yeah,
It was almost nice just to relax and just go for it on the path.
yeah. There were some open areas.
There was only like one
somewhat
or
open.
two.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
most of the game was linear.
it's nice to have a linear game. Actually, I'll give a short synopsis since we are now into Amnesia. So, Amnesia Rebirth is the third installment in the Amnesia series. It's set close to 100 years later than when the first game takes place.
Is it in the 1920s? Or 1930s?
1930s, late 1930s.
Okay.
And the first game was in 1830s. Basically, it follows the story of Tassi.
Tassi.
Tassi, yeah.
And her husband.
Yeah.
He's not
well,
in it long.
Well, yeah, I mean, it basically follows the story of Tassi, and she's with her husband and a group of people. They're on a trip on a plane to an archaeology, or I don't know. She's an archaeologist, and they're on a plane to an expedition. The plane crashes
Somewhere in
and-
Africa.
Right, the plane crashes, and the game starts with you, like all other Amnesia games. You don't know anything. Like you don't have memory, and you don't have any recollection. Oh, can't even say it. Recollection of anything that happened before, and you slowly progress to the game, and your memories come back.
Mm-hmm.
So
This game is really confusing.
it is.
It's more
Definitely.
confusing than Resident Evil 7, like we talked about last week. That was confusing because of how far-fetched it was.
Yeah.
This is confusing because it's like you keep falling asleep and then you wake up and things are different.
Mm-hmm.
And even after beating the game and watching some lore stuff,
You're still confused.
we still don't know 100% what's going on.
Yeah. We were talking about this before. A lot of this game is expounding upon the lore and answering the questions on the lore from the first game.
The Dark Descent.
Yeah.
And
which
Chug and
was
I haven't
first
played it. Well, I have played it, but I never played it long. Any of the
Yeah.
older Amnesia games.
Well, I played Machine for Pigs for a little bit, not too long. And I didn't really play the first one either, but I basically know everything that happens now after doing research. So I haven't played it, but I know everything that happens, including the extended lore.
So as a standalone game, do you think it works? Or do you need to play the previous games to actually fully appreciate it?
I heard you don't actually need to play the previous games, but you will be a little bit confused.
The game-
which is what we are right
That's
now.
what I mean, to fully appreciate Rebirth.
Yeah, no, the game works standalone.
It does.
It does. You don't necessarily need to know what happens before because it is its own story. You don't need to read all the notes or listen to all the audio clips or whatever you call them because it has its own story. Although it means more if you know the lore of the previous games.
I actually heard if you played Rebirth first and then played Dark Descent, it actually works. Because the way they did it in Rebirth, it kind of gave you the same explanation of what like the Vitae are in the first game. So it's if you play, you can actually play it either way. You can play that game and then the first game, or you can play it the other way. It still works both ways.
I do have to say that Rebirth was the most classic horror game that we played this month.
Definitely,
Yes.
yeah.
It was 100% horror with lore in there.
Yeah,
Like, there's no fighting back against the monsters.
right.
You gotta hide when they come after you.
Yeah, actually, yeah. So it was the most horror and probably the most scary because Little Nightmares probably is a close second. Although that's more creepy and unsettling. This is more straight horror. It's got basically it's true to the older, not so much older, but those horror games when there was a lot of them coming out like Outlast, the first Amnesia game, obviously Soma. So a lot of the good ones. It's kind of like a lot of the good ones in that format is like transferred over to now.
Actually, Soma came out in 2015,
Yeah,
so it's not that old.
yeah. No, it's not old, but we kind of saw a break from that. Like I can't really remember any at least popular ones that kind of feel like Outlast or like the first Amnesia game.
You need to play Soma. Just
I
saying.
do, yeah.
There was Outlast 2. It didn't do as well.
I didn't really
I wasn't a huge fan of it, but I don't know what the reception was of the game. Like, was it positive?
I don't know. I think it was semi-positive. I think most people obviously thought the first game was better. But yeah,
Like,
I'm
you
not
can't beat
exactly sure.
the first game in terms of horror. Like, I think that might be the scariest horror game available.
I think so too. Yeah.
It's just so creepy.
I remember I played through maybe half of it. No, I never beat it. But yeah, I think that probably is the scariest game that I've played.
I think the golden age of horror games was like 2012 through 2015.
Yeah,
Because that's when PewDiePie played Amnesia, The Dark Descent. And,
I think Amnesia came out in 2010.
it did.
well, that's when he played
Yeah,
it. And that's
true.
when it became popular. And that's when he got his start on YouTube.
Yeah, so another thing that kind of adds to the whole, like you said, golden age is PewDiePie played Amnesia, and that's kind of when the whole Let's Play thing happened. And Amnesia became very popular, and for good reason because it's a great game.
Yeah.
And that's what kind of first revolutionized the whole Let's Play and YouTube era, but also horror and what people expected from a horror game.
Yeah. When did Outlast come out? Was that around the same
It
time?
was like 2000.
I'm not exactly
11?
sure.
2011? Maybe 2014. I'm going to look it up. Yeah.
I thought it was older than that.
It's a newer horror. Newer than Amnesia, that's for sure.
Yeah, 2013.
Yeah, okay. That makes sense.
Yeah. And then there's obviously the other types, which is like Resident Evil, which they're still horror, but you can fight back, like Evil Within.
It's a different type of horror.
Yeah, definitely.
It's action horror.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, Until Dawn. You guys never played that, did you?
I watched the full
watched
playthrough.
it. I watched it.
That was a great game. Me and Ezra played that in one night, although we ended up killing everyone. I didn't know that. I thought it was a linear. I thought it was completely linear. And then at the end of the game, we realized that it was not linear at all.
It's kind of what I
Oh,
did in
ways of
Vampire.
character. Huh?
It's kind of what I did in Vampire.
Oh yeah. Oof.
Yeah, Until Dawn it's like a story-based game that you make choices, and based off of one choice, everything could be completely different.
Yeah, that game made a complete turn. When I was playing it, it was like at first I thought it was just another I don't know how to say it, like serial killer type game, and then it just made this complete turn. I wasn't even expecting it, and then it went into this like whole like not I don't know, not monster, but it was like I was really impressed, and I was really happy about
Was
that.
there another
Yeah.
game like that? I know there was by the same people. Actually, no, it wasn't by the same people. It was Man of Medan. I don't know if you
Never
guys
heard
heard
of
of
it.
that.
Never heard of it.
It's like it wasn't as good as Until Dawn, but it got good reception. It's on Steam, and it was like one of those choice games.
Hmm.
But I'm trying to think. Was there another one like that we've played in the past? Because I'm trying to think.
I don't know. I do know that Until Dawn, like it's weird. It meshes both player control, but also almost like I don't know how you describe it. Not like turn based, but weird timed choice, like timed choice.
Detroit Become Human. That's what it was.
Yeah,
That's what
okay,
it was.
yeah.
I was thinking there was some game like it, but
Yeah, so there was areas where you'd walk around, and even areas where you'd be like sprinting and having to push buttons. But then there was these timed decisions that you needed to make, and then depending on which choice you make, there's two different outcomes. But if you don't make a choice, that's a third outcome.
People do playthroughs where they don't dodge things. So like let's say you're running through the woods and there's a branch,
Mhm.
like they don't press the choice to dodge it, so they just get whacked in the face as they run around.
Yeah,
It's kind of funny to watch
yeah,
because they'll get beat down repeatedly.
yeah. So yeah, that was a really good game, and like we were saying before, Amnesia kind of was the game to play in terms of Let's Play,
Mhm.
which added to kind of its I don't know solidifying in the horror game genre because that's
I mean-
very highly revered.
That was the era of Slender, the 8 pages.
Yeah,
Like that was the same time. That's when
Yeah.
that was popular.
yeah, exactly. It was like Slender 8 pages, and then Amnesia, and Amnesia obviously had a lot more substance to the game.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why it's so popular. Or yeah, I mean, it still is popular. It's
I
one of
never
those-
knew there was a big story involved
there's a
because when I used to
huge
watch
story.
PewDiePie, he made up his own story in it.
Did he?
Like there's this little golden statue he called Stefano, and like he used to talk to it in the game. And then the monster he called the Bro. And he's like, oh, the Bro's coming, and he saw barrels and he made barrels his enemy. So he actually still makes that joke today.
oh yeah,
Barrels
wow.
are its enemy. So that's what I knew of Amnesia before. His
Yeah.
own made up story.
Later we're gonna do the same thing like we have done in the last few podcasts, but later when we get to the spoiler section, I want to get into a lot of the lore of the first game and how it ties into the second game because this is one of those games where under the surface there's this massive story and it's really convoluted, but it's really good.
Mm-hmm.
It's really good, and I want to talk about it later. I won't talk about it now because if I talk about it now, I'm gonna want to tie it into the game, and that would warrant spoilers.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess we can go back to
Let's talk about the
Let's-
gameplay, the general gameplay,
yeah. It matches the first game, very true to Amnesia,
which
game.
is what?
I mean
Well, I
What do
mean,
you-
for
Dark
people who
corridors,
Yeah,
light,
exactly.
don't know
you
what
have-
it is.
So
Yeah.
okay, so in the beginning, you go into these cave systems, and there's this fear mechanic, and if
Mhm.
you're in the dark, you start like fearing things. You just can start going crazy.
But what the fear does is it makes this clicking in your ears, kind of like resembling someone going insane, and it tries to replicate that on your screen too. Like these black tendrils will kind of just encompass your screen, and your ears will be clicking, and your screen distorts.
yeah.
So it kind of works. I like
it
that.
does, and then you
Yeah.
also need to find. You start with matches, and you're pretty much using matches the entire game. But they only last like 5 seconds.
Yeah.
It's terrifying.
you use them to light torches around. though.
Yeah, and you can only keep 10 in your inventory. Did
Yeah.
you notice that? Like,
Mhm.
you see some, and you're like, oh, I don't want to come back here, but
Yeah.
You just light everything around you, and then go back and get the other matches.
Yeah,
Mhm.
but you also later on you get a flashlight, like a torch.
Yeah. Like it was like a lantern.
A
type-
lamp.
Yeah.
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 and it only lasts a certain amount of time.
You have to get oil to refill it.
Things like that. The fear mechanic was really cool, actually.
Yeah, actually, that was in the first game too. Although I think it's heightened in this one.
Is it really?
It is, yeah. Because this one, if you get to the point where your fear overtakes you, there's these flashes and something happens. You know, something
Wasn't
happens.
that part of the story though? The random flashes, like certain images just flash on your screen, almost in like a jump scare fashion.
It's like similar to if you're remembering something. Like, it's like, I remember that.
Yeah, but I thought it was part of the story. I thought that was not when you were just going insane at random times.
The pictures are part of the story. Oh, I mean, they don't really tie in with the story, but they are images from the story.
Yeah.
So I don't know exactly what that necessarily means, but I do know that those pictures are memories.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
all the loading screens are memories too.
The loading screens surprised me because I put this in my review. But at first I made a joke because I know Jaden was with me. I was like, "You're kidding me? There's loading screens in 2020 between doors and areas." And then I was like, as I progressed through the game, I realized that, wait a second, these actually mean something. And there's this whole backstory that's told with those loading screens.
Yeah.
I thought that was really good and a really good way to implement them.
So was the voice acting.
Voice acting was amazing.
It was.
Like they hired some class voice actors there, some really good class ones.
And going back to seeing footage of the old game, they always had good voice acting, but in this one, it was so good, especially in the letters. Like the emotion brought across from what the letter was reading.
Yeah,
it's so good.
There were some points in the game where I was getting really annoyed at it. Mostly towards the end. But you got to admit, the environment design is really good.
It is,
yeah.
Especially with not spoiling anything, but like the alternate dimension area.
Right.
There are some huge set pieces in there.
Yeah.
Pretty crazy.
It was weird. It was like, it almost kind of reminded me of like, I don't know, Lovecraftian without all the tentacles.
Yes, it reminded me of Call of Cthulhu.
Yeah. The green.
Yes,
and
the very green Cthulhu and weird, odd places.
I thought you only see Cthulhu at like one scene in that
at
game.
the very end of Call of Cthulhu, but I'm not saying just the Cthulhu himself. I'm just saying the environment,
Lovecraftian environment,
yeah,
without the tentacles. But yeah, and like we said before, I mean the story is very convoluted. It's very confusing and very, very deep.
It's called Rebirth, and it's centered around the theme of giving birth a lot. So there's a lot of imagery behind that. Like certain weird flashback scenes, you're in this alternate dimension and you see this giant fetus in the sky, like pulsing and growing. It's kind of weird.
Yeah, there's a lot of weird underlying things that we just don't understand, which I'm sure someone's going to come out with a video and explain it all.
Oh,
but
I'm sure.
as of now, there's really nothing.
Yeah.
So a lot of it leaves you wanting more, either wanting more or just absolutely confused.
Yeah.
But back to the gaming mechanics. How'd you guys feel about the puzzles?
I thought there were some very obvious things that were easy to miss.
True.
Like there was one part where you have to get up onto this elevator and you look next to it and there's a paper that says you need a lever. So I'm like, okay, let me just go find this lever. Well, I looked around for probably a half an hour until Chug was like, oh, did you look on the crossbow? And I go over to the crossbow and it's just sitting there, but it's kind of camouflaged on it. I would have never found that because I didn't know to look on there.
I didn't even see the paper.
I thought it was part of the crossbow.
I actually found that, and I didn't know what it was for. I actually found it beforehand. So
I had an issue with that too, but I found the crossbow part fast. But my issue was I was wandering around for like 20 minutes.
The cannon?
No, the plank. I didn't know to put the plank on the thing.
Oh, I figured that out pretty quickly. But
first I put it like vertically. No, first I put it horizontal, then it got stuck. And then I was like, okay, I'm just going to put it like vertically or whatever.
Yeah.
And then like I figured it out. And it was just like, at first I was just confused. I was like, wait, do I need like a plank or some sort of pallet or something to put on this thing?
The puzzles did remind me of older puzzle games, kind of like Myst or Uru.
Yes.
Those are games from the 90s and early 2000s that I did really like part of that. Because part of Myst is this sci-fi aspect where you do a lot of puzzles like that. But they did sometimes get annoying in certain parts where I would be stuck on it and I didn't realize, oh, I just had to take the ball out of the machine
Yeah.
or something like that.
Did you guys notice throughout the entire game, it was like from the beginning to the end, it was constantly. I told you this, Caleb. You finally you see your goal, and then you complete the goal, and you're like, yes, I completed it. Boom, everything just turns on you. Everything changes, and you just thrown into something. And you
I know
take
it's a
it far
horror
away.
game, but it gets kind of, I'm not going to say annoying, but it gets kind of old watching a character get up and then have someone kick them back down again.
Yeah, there's a lot of string pulling with like how you feel because you get up in some areas because you finish a big puzzle or you finish a big area, and then all of a sudden it's like, nope, we're gonna bring you back, or not bring you back, but
Bring you to another area.
yeah, where you have to do it basically the whole thing, not the same
it's
thing,
like,
but
oh, we're escaping this place. Oh, never mind. The next area is even worse.
yeah. I mean, I don't know. I
And
guess
that's just the way horror games are, I guess.
yeah. And
But other games haven't been like that because Outlast, that was constant bad stuff happening. There was no feeling of, yay, I did it, and then you get killed
yeah,
again.
Outlast gave you no breaks. I mean, that game was
Yeah.
just like constant fear, constant terror. Like that's why it's such a good game.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying this one's not good.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
I don't know if a horror game should give you so many moments where you think you've succeeded.
yeah.
I think a good
too
horror
many.
game will make you feel like you're down the entire time, rather than letting you feel like you're up and then down.
Yeah, that was a weird tonality throughout the game. That was like, I don't know.
Like you get to the desert, you see this beautiful light shining in, and you're happy, but then you black out, and then you're in the dungeon area again.
That happened
Yeah.
like 4 times.
Yeah,
So I think too many. I mean, I wouldn't have minded a couple or maybe just one. Kind of like in the middle of the game, you think you're about to be done, but then all of a sudden something happens. But it happened too
Yeah.
many times, I think.
and Chug and I expressed the same opinion. Towards the latter half of or latter end of the game, there comes a point where like, okay, I'm ready for this game to be done now.
I had the same.
You don't
feeling.
need to drag it on any further.
Yeah.
Just
I
kind
had
of
the same exact feeling, and I know which part you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
we'll go more. Like we'll talk more about it. in
Like
the
it gets
spoiler section, but
extremely linear at the end, just for storytelling reasons.
Mhm.
It just drags though.
And literally, it comes to the point where you just hold W or
Mhm.
forward on your controller. And I was just on my phone while I was holding this button, waiting for the scene to be over.
Yeah, I think that comes from them getting our hopes up so many times that by the last stretch of the game, we're kind of just like, all right, I kind of want to be done with this.
Yeah. Oh, I wanted to say, all 3 of us got a different ending.
Ooh.
he put the.
Wait,
Oh,
no,
yeah,
not
yeah,
spoiler
that's right.
section.
Oh yeah,
No spoilers.
Yeah. No, never mind.
We'll talk about it
I
later.
shouldn't have said that.
There's 3 different endings.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
2 of them are obvious. One of them is not so obvious.
Yeah, I didn't
that,
even know
that
there was
Chug got the worst ending possible.
Yeah, there's. We're not gonna say what they are, but there's a good ending, a bad ending, and a really bad ending.
Mhm.
So I got the bad ending. Chug got the really bad ending.
I
And
got
Caleb
the
got
good
the
one.
good
Caleb
one.
got the good ending. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll talk about them later.
But I do want to say, I feel they overused the monsters.
Yeah,
They did.
They did. They definitely
They
did.
majorly overused them.
I think it got to the point where, okay, I think this stems from not enough variety
Mm-hmm.
with monsters and creatures because really there was only maybe
Two.
two,
Two,
types.
yep.
and the first one was probably like 3/4 of the game.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that because there wasn't enough variety, that one monster got to the point where you're not scared of them anymore.
And you're kind of
Yeah.
more annoyed
Yeah,
at it.
it got from terrified from them to more of like thriller where you're kind of just running away.
Mm-hmm.
Which I mean, that did bring. I was tense in that time, but it wasn't so much of like I'm terrified of this thing.
Yeah.
So
But there wasn't
yeah.
really much lore behind them, though.
Yeah, there
You
was.
notice that?
There was an infection they talked about a
Well,
lot.
yeah, but I'm just saying, once you found out what they were, you kind of just like, oh,
Well, I know
Well-
for me, the scariest thing is the fear of the unknown.
Mhm.
And when you see the thing too many times, it becomes not scary anymore, but annoying to deal with.
Yeah, I mean that's the fear of the unknown. What they did, or at the start of the game, they did something that was really, really good, and I was actually really scared of. It was that they didn't show too much of the monster. I
You
remember,
see the back of his legs as he runs into a hole, or something
yeah, but
like
not
that.
even that. The first time you ever see him is you're in the caverns or whatever you want to call them. You're crawling through this tight space, and you see this light, and then you're not even expecting it, and then all of a sudden you hear like crackling, and then this tall figure just starts to stand up, and it's like it's a split second you see him, and then she falls over.
Yeah.
But then like you don't see him for a while, and I think that was perfect because you don't
Mhm.
see him, you just see a figure, a tall figure.
When you first get into the fortress in the desert, you hear something upstairs above you. And there's one
Yeah.
point where you go into a room and a chair falls down a hole.
Mhm.
So you know there's something up there. So they did a good job with building up to that point,
Mm-hmm.
which I really liked.
Well, in Soma, the thing I liked about it, I looked it up yesterday. I didn't realize there's 10 different creatures in Soma.
Really,
Yeah.
I really got to play that game.
And I
I-
know JJ didn't really like
Well,
the game that much.
no. So I didn't finish the game, not because I didn't like it, because I thought that the creatures got annoying after a while.
Hmm.
The environment's amazing. It feels like BioShock a little bit because
Mhm.
underwater, but I found that the creatures were a little bit overused. I mean, it was overwhelmingly positive, so I'm sure a lot of people disagree with me. But there's one creature in particular that you run into time and time again.
Well, that's the main enemy.
You have to look away from him because your screen just distorts so much. So you got to stand in the corner and wait for him to disappear.
Hmm.
But the problem is you don't know when he's gone sometimes.
Hmm.
So you turn around and he's still there and he'll linger in certain areas. So that got a bit annoying, but from everything else I played of the game, it was really good.
Yeah, they added a safe mode, which allows you to go through the entire game in the story without having the creatures there.
Hmm.
Which is kind of a cool idea,
That is cool.
but like for people like JJ who doesn't really like the creatures that much.
Yeah, I think it's not too many creatures, but enough creatures to keep things fresh. Also, Soma was created by the same people that made the first Amnesia game, right?
Yes.
Oh,
So-
was it really?
Yeah.
I didn't know
What
that.
is it? Frictional Games.
Frictional games.
So they made the first Amnesia game and the new one, Rebirth, the one we're talking about, third, and Soma. While they were making Soma, they didn't have enough time to make a second Amnesia game, so another studio did it. That's why it didn't do too well.
Mhm.
The
That
second
sounds
game.
like what happened with Dark Souls.
Yeah.
The main team was working on Bloodborne, and they hired out another team to work on Dark Souls 2. So they made the game completely different than the rest of the series, and most people hated it because of that.
yeah.
But the alternate game they worked on turned out to be amazing.
yeah. It seems like that never works.
Yeah, it does.
Like hiring out to do a second game while you're working on one. Like,
You know, Terraria did that.
really?
Yeah, they hired people to work on Terraria Otherworld. Like they hired an entire team, and so after a year, the team barely had any progress, and they didn't like where they went, so they decided to hire another team, and they had to pick up on that, and it just never worked out, so they canceled it.
Oh, wow. Are they making a second Terraria?
No,
They don't have plans for it currently.
I don't think
Hmm.
so.
It was called Terraria Otherworld.
Huh.
And they actually implemented some of the music from that into the new Terraria update.
Hmm.
Just
Yeah,
kinda
there
cool.
was actually a gameplay video for Otherworld. It looks pretty cool.
Hmm.
But
But it seems like every time the main team creates a hit and then decides to outsource that to do another game, the second game is not going to be as good
Yeah. It's like a trend.
because they don't know what made the game good. They don't fully understand the creative process behind it.
What were we talking about? Oh, yeah. No, what do you guys think about the scare factor of the game? Like the whole it getting annoying aside.
the first half, I thought it was pretty terrifying because you had no
Definitely,
idea what
yeah.
was happening. Everything was dark. I personally thought the darkness was scary. Like whenever you had the match, and you could only see like 2 or 3 feet in front of you.
Yeah, especially at the
Like,
start of
it
the
was
game.
it was pretty terrifying.
Like in the taverns, like it was just terrifying. I didn't know something was was like if they were around me or something because I read a note where it said like something's in the caverns or something with us.
Yeah. For me personally, I didn't find the game very scary, mostly because the monsters seem kind of generic. The second monster you come up to or you encounter was not scary at all.
it was
just
annoying.
completely annoying. The first one though was a bit scary when you first see him. Like he'll grab something in front of you as you walk by it, like come out of the wall and grab it.
Mhm.
That was a bit startling. The biggest scare I had while playing the game was when someone sneezed on Discord when I was at a tense part, and that's the biggest jump I did while playing it.
Yeah.
I came to expect the jump scares from those creatures.
Yeah, there were a couple cheap jump scares that I never really care for. I think the game was pretty. I mean, it was pretty scary. I think it's true to the horror genre and probably the scariest and most horror game that we played so far this month. But I think it does more of keeping tension, and that plays into the whole fear thing.
Mhm.
When you're in the dark, you're just tense.
Yeah.
It's not so much that you're scared, you're just on edge. And I think the game is more of keeping you on edge the entire game, most of the game, rather than I don't know, creepiness or just terror.
Yeah. Like my favorite it wasn't really a jump scare. My favorite thing in the game was in the beginning part when you first see the ghoul and you go up and you see a canister for your lantern. You're like, "Oh." And you go up to it and
And
you're
he
about to
grabs it.
grab it and the
Oh,
hand comes
yeah.
out of nowhere.
That's what I was talking about before.
And I was just like, "Oh. Well then."
Yeah, that's what I meant. Like that kind of startled me a little bit.
I like that. I like that.
But once you started to see the monster more, it wasn't scary anymore.
Mhm.
Especially when there are dozens of them in certain rooms. If there's one monster, it's creepy because why is this monster following me? Why is it so powerful? Then you realize there are hordes of them. You're like, oh, I just got to avoid them now.
Yeah, actually, it's funny that you say that because I've always thought I've always thought that because it seems like when there's one terrifying creature after you, it's scarier than having multiple, and
Mhm.
I don't exactly know why.
And
I don't-
the creatures that shine the light on you later on in the game, same thing. Like you
Mhm.
think there's one creepy like being, then you find out there's a whole bunch of them.
And then it gets less scary.
And all you have to do
Yeah.
is just avoid all of them
Mhm.
instead of why is this one creature pursuing me?
Yeah.
So I think there were too many monsters in it. They could have lessened that a lot.
Yeah,
Well, there's too many of the same.
Yeah,
There
there's
wasn't
one-
variety, but too many.
Mm-hmm.
that one section with all the ghouls. That's the specific point that I'm talking about. They overused the monster.
Mhm. I mean, you were still tense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, of
There's
course.
tension, but just wasn't necessarily scary.
But
Like-
those parts were incredibly linear too, which
Yes.
isn't always a bad thing. But it's not like you were hiding at the same time. You just walk past the sleeping ghouls.
JJ never had any issues with that staircase part.
No.
He came down the staircase and ran after him, and he was running away from him.
Well, I
but-
saw him come down the staircase, so I went and hid in another room. And then he pursued me to the other room and then just left completely.
I think you and I
Really?
ran up the staircase and died.
No,
from
I
that.
hid in the room, but he found me.
Oh, I ran up the staircase and died right away.
Oh, wow.
I think another thing that lessens the scare factor is if you die too many times, the creature will disappear.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's some sort of easy mode mechanic that just eliminates the threat so you can get by it.
Yeah.
I kind of was disappointed in that actually,
Yeah, I mean,
because I never had the satisfaction of getting past the creature myself. He just despawned, so I could just walk past him.
the whole quote unquote dying mechanic, we'll get into it later because it has a lot of like spoilers attached to it. But there's a sense of not that much at stake when it comes to that. And I think
Yeah.
that makes things less scary,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't find the game particularly scary. It was more tense.
Yeah. And you know, we sound like we're like really lashing on the game or whatever, but I mean, I enjoyed it.
I did.
I enjoyed the
too.
game too.
Yeah. So it's an
Um,
enjoyable game.
I said to Chug last night though, honestly, I probably wouldn't have finished the game after like that one part we were all talking about. I probably wouldn't have gone much past that. Because it just got annoying to a point that I didn't care.
I think I probably would have finished it solely because I wanted to see the story played out. Because actually, I think Tassi was actually a pretty good character.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, she wasn't the best, but I think she was. I don't know. You were invested in her enough to be able to finish the story or
Yeah.
see what
Yeah.
happens at least.
Yeah.
The other characters in the story though, you weren't invested in them whatsoever.
No, not at all.
The husband dies early game. I wouldn't call that a spoiler just because it happened so early on.
Yeah.
You don't have any chance to actually like the guy. You see him very briefly on the plane, and that's the only interaction you have with him.
Mm-hmm.
And the next time you see him, he's dead.
Mhm.
So, I mean, you have notes, which he was a good voice actor, and
Mhm.
you hear his notes and you hear the emotion in his voice. But I wasn't really very impacted when he
Yeah.
died. And neither was Tassi.
Yeah, she was kind of emotionless at times.
She cried
Yeah.
there and then doesn't really talk about him again.
Mm-hmm.
So it was kind of weird.
I will say that essentially, basically, the whole game, the side characters are told or
Their story.
fleshed out, are through notes. 'Cause
Mhm.
they're really, if you think about it, there's only maybe two other side characters. The rest of them are through notes because
There
you're
were
kind of
3, and then there were 3 who also you find dead, I think.
Wait, what is it? I actually thought this, and I was reading up on like a bunch of people. They also thought the same thing. About until like when you're actually going through the caves and everything, you read every note.
Mm-hmm.
But once you initially got to that world, the other world, and you read the tablets, I just stopped reading them
same.
because
Mhm.
it had nothing to do with pretty much what we were thinking in the story. And so we're just like, why would I need to read this?
Well,
Is
this
just
is-
about
I do like how they included that though, because it's for people who are interested in the broader
Yeah.
picture.
yeah, exactly. But for us, that was our first Amnesia game.
Yeah. So I don't think we should
And-
call that an issue because it was optional. We weren't forced to read them.
True.
They were there for the people who cared about the broader picture. For the people who don't as much and just want to watch a video of people explaining it, we could just play through the game as normal.
Okay. Yeah, I
Well,
could see that.
The tablets and the audio things in the other world are actually a separate story
Yeah.
because it's a kingdom and somewhat of a kingdom. It's more of another world, and the history of that world is told through that. So, like I said in my review, there are a lot of underlying stories. Like the loading screens have their own story, backstory, which I thought was done really well. There's the main story. There's the side character story that you don't know what happens because you forgot, and a lot of it's told through that and what happened while you were gone. And then there's the other world story, and that is told through all the tablets and the audio clips.
And the characters that were on the plane with Tassi and her husband, you didn't really get to care about them. Basically, what happens is you'll see the character for the very first time. Maybe you read about them in notes before, but you'll see them for the first time, and Tassi will say their name and be like, I got to help this person. But you have no emotional connection to them. So if they die, you don't really care as much. And it's not like an emotional thing. It's just more like, oh, another casualty.
The only connection you can have to them is through the letters. And even though the voice acting and the emotion brought through that is done very well, it's not enough.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So the side characters are essentially told through letters.
Yeah.
But Tassi, I think she was okay. I mean, like I said, she's not perfect, and I don't think she's the best character. I don't think she's as good as like our last game, Ethan. I mean, he barely talked and he was like invincible, but I almost think that he was like more likable.
Tassi was a superhuman too. So was
She
her
was
baby.
a superhuman. What's
She
up
fell
with
so many times.
I know. What's up with this? Like I think there's
And she was pregnant too.
That's what I mean. Her baby was
Like,
a superhuman too.
ridiculous.
it's actually all going to tie in together. It's going to be the next Marvel universe.
Oh my.
The horror universe or something.
What was that? Universal had something going on like that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they were.
What about the bananas? The banana splits? Have you heard of that movie?
No.
So there was this kids show in like 80s or 90s, I forget when. I think it was called The Banana Splits, and it was based off of these like 4 characters who wore these animatronic suits, kind of like Five Nights at Freddy's. It was a kid show, like a real kid show. Well, they made it into a horror movie. So basically, the whole thing revolves around a bunch of kids go to this showing of the show, and all the characters are animatronics and start killing everyone.
Is it? Whoa! Wait, is it a big budget movie?
I don't know, honestly.
It's so weird. It sounds like Five Nights at Freddy's.
Wait, wasn't it like super gory though?
I watched a YouTube video on it, and it was pretty gory, I think.
There's a
It was kind of
There's-
funny, actually.
weird. There's a new Five Nights at Freddy's games. I think
There are so many now.
Like
I've
$30,
lost
though.
track. Wait, what?
on Steam. Yeah,
That's
Wait.
what?
I don't understand.
They came out with Five Nights at I forgot what it was. It was like every single Five Nights at Freddy's game put into one, and it was free
Yeah.
or something. It's like you could literally
Custom
create,
night.
Yeah, custom night.
Yeah.
You could create whatever you want.
I stopped paying attention after like the 5th game.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah, I think I know. Aren't they all the same model? Like just stare at a screen and then
Pretty much.
Or do
Yeah.
you move
No,
around?
there's another one, Sister Location, which is a completely different style of gameplay. Then there was a pizzeria one where it's like a 2D game. I don't even know.
Wasn't
That's
there
weird.
like World or something? Five Nights at Freddy's.
That's what I'm
World?
talking about. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
you know. I think if they did something like an Outlast kind of thing, I think it actually could work
Mm.
really well.
It
Like,
could.
Yeah.
The animatronics are kind of roaming, maybe in different areas. There's like one, depending on the area you're in, there's a certain animatronic that's roaming or whatever, and they have like, I think they can do a lot with it if there was like more story.
Wait.
Or there is a lot of story, but
Do you guys
implement it
remember,
in that way.
or have you guys seen Case animatronics?
What's that?
No.
It.
Oh, actually, he made a real Freddy suit, right? Or something?
I don't know, but pretty much it was one, and he looked like Freddy. He was like a silver teddy bear with like red eyes, but he was literally all silver, and it was like a horror game where you have to try to get away from him or something. It was an indie game, but it was like
Oh, I thought you were
first
talking
person,
about-
and you have a flashlight and you gotta
Oh,
go
wow.
through.
I thought you were talking about a guy on YouTube who makes actual animatronics, and he
No.
made a real Freddy animatronic.
Oh wow,
It was pretty cool looking.
Wait, so is that connected to Five Nights at
it
Freddy's?
is not. No,
Hmm.
it's totally different. It's like its own little indie game or something.
Hmm.
I saw someone play it like a couple years ago.
If they were to do something like this format, like Amnesia and Outlast and all that, they were to do something Five Nights at Freddy's in this format and tell the story in that way, I think it would do really well.
I think so too. Yeah.
Be terrifying too.
It would.
Mhm. What were we talking about before?
We were talking about the lore and all the underlying stories. I don't know. Let's see, what else is there
Hmm.
that we could talk about without getting into spoilers?
I think personally, I would have liked to see more puzzles.
Yes.
There were
yes.
only 3 really,
Major ones.
yeah, major ones. The other ones were very tiny, and I would have liked to see a game more of those major puzzles. Like the one where you have to start the teleporter. That was enjoyable.
That was a good one, yeah.
And the one where you had to open the doors with those triangle power things.
Yeah.
That was really fun.
Mm-hmm.
So I wish there were more of those throughout the game.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wouldn't have mind seeing more of that.
And that's not like Resident Evil style puzzles. It's different. Because yeah, you can store some things in your inventory, but it's different than you pick up the item in your inventory and inspect it and open the box and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
You actually
Resident
have to
Evil's-
initially carry the stuff around.
Yeah.
Resident Evil is a lot of backtracking too.
It is.
But in this one, it's way
Way more linear.
Way more
It's
linear.
like you move on, and then you have a new one. You move on.
Yeah.
There's something new. You move on. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, in the last half of the game, it completely changed from that puzzle / creepy atmosphere to full on hide from the enemies as they shine the light at you.
Yeah.
Like with those specific enemies we said were annoying. That whole section was just annoying.
With the water.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't.
Did you guys go? I'm curious. Did you guys go straight through, or did you fall? Did you like? I don't know. I hid behind the pods.
I never died
Pods?
during those
Oh.
sections.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I didn't really have too much trouble because I don't know. I don't know. If,
I didn't have trouble either, but it just wasn't fun.
yeah. I think. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. It does. I think the game struggles from keeping, at least, scare factor, which I think a lot of horror games suffer from.
Mm-hmm.
Is at a certain point it doesn't get scary because you get used to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that's an issue with just horror games like this in general, unless they're able to switch things up or keep your I don't know what you call it, scary.
If you think of Resident Evil 7, there was a new creature, which there were people, but there was like a new creature every single area you went to.
Yeah.
If they added more creatures, I feel it would have been better.
And less in number.
Yes.
They had to juggle with the fact that they wanted to keep it true to the original while also adding to the lore of the original. So I think that's where they kind of struggled a little bit. They had to find a good balance. And instead of finding a good balance, they had sections completely dedicated to lore and sections completely dedicated to gameplay.
Yeah.
I think they should have been intertwined.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah.
the game was good. It was fun.
It was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Another thing is that it's also a game made 10 years later, so you have to keep it true to Amnesia gameplay, but I mean, you do have to innovate in some way because the horror genre has kind of changed in a bit over the years. So it's kind of like this weird thing where you have to keep it true to Amnesia, but you also have to implement some new things and some new gameplay.
Yeah.
So I think, yeah, but I think overall, I think it was a good game. I enjoyed it for the most part. It got kind of tedious towards the end.
Yeah. Same
think
for
that's-
me.
I think that's most for all horror games. I mean, most horror games.
Yeah.
Well, not Outlast.
No, I never finished Outlast.
Yeah, but from what I've seen, it just keeps escalating as you go on.
Hmm.
Outlast 2, same thing with that, actually. It got more annoying towards the end.
Yeah, definitely.
But I think developers struggle with ending the horror game. They don't know how to make a good climax for it.
Hmm. Yeah, I agree.
What do you think, Chug?
Yeah, I agree with that. There are a few like I'm not gonna spoil it, but the ending of Soma was really good.
Really?
Mm.
It was really good. I really like the ending of Soma.
Yeah, I gotta finish that still. I'm more than halfway through.
Yeah, I don't want to spoil that. It's
Yeah.
I'm gonna say it's a really good ending.
I really want to play that actually. I might have to jump into it this week.
It's
or-
not long.
yeah.
It's not a long game. It's like 6 hours.
Hmm.
So
So you want to jump into spoilers now?
Yeah,
yeah.
let's switch over to spoiler. Well,
50? I don't think we'll be talking about spoilers for very long.
Yeah, true.
yeah, no, yeah, I think all of us can say that we enjoyed the game. I think it's a better sequel than the second game, way better from what I've heard, because the second game was disconnected and just not that good of a story. So yeah, no, I think it was a good game. It's nice to see a game true to kind of like the older Golden Age. I mean, it has its issues, but it's nice to play something like that again.
Yeah, And
Definitely.
I think people who like the old one would definitely like the main gameplay of this one.
Yeah, especially with the lore. So
Yeah.
But yeah, so we'll jump into the spoilers now. So okay, so why don't we just go with the endings that we got? 'Cause
Okay.
I'm curious.
So let's start with the good ending. Actually, let's backtrack and talk about what happens before
Let's-
the endings.
Yeah.
So you find out your baby's sick with the same disease that your other child died from. The lady tells you that she's the only one that can cure the disease.
This is the goddess lady.
The
Who's in
goddess-
charge
yeah.
of everything.
She's been following you around and guiding you throughout the game.
Yeah, but she's also the one that made the ghouls. She's the one that sent the
And the
flying
Vitae.
people at you.
Mhm.
Yeah, and she's the one that started the Vitae thing.
So why is she trying to kill you?
She's
With-
not trying to kill
with
you.
the
She's
flying
trying
people?
to save the baby.
The baby's in her still.
Yeah, that's probably why she's there. You're not dying.
You don't die. That's one of the things we were talking
Mm.
about before. You can't die.
Those things
When
are
you get caught, you just run away.
Those things, I think the whole point of that is you kind of lose your memory again, and she places you back into another spot behind, so you eventually get to her.
Well, no, the
Huh.
fear overtakes you. If the fear overtakes you, you turn into a ghoul. So you slightly lose yourself and you run. Like remember when that guy hit you in the head and said, like take her instead of me? You actually start to growl and you hit him.
Yeah,
Yeah. Oh, you destroy that guy.
Yeah, so you actually when your fear goes too far, you kind of turn into a ghoul yourself.
Wait, do you lose your memory as a ghoul?
I think you don't remember yourself being one, or slightly.
Well,
Oh,
Based off of my ending, there might be something there. So what happens is the goddess or whatever empress, she gives you this crib and says, "I'm the only one that can save your baby. If you want your baby to live, put him in the crib and walk away." So the ending I did was I put the baby in the crib, thinking that it would be the best thing for the baby. I walked away. I'm assuming the baby lived. It didn't show the baby. But then you see Tassi turning like fully into a ghoul. And she has a picture of her previous daughter and she's looking at it and she puts it down. And that's the end.
okay, so that's like the bad ending,
That's the bad ending.
but not the worst ending. Chug,
I got
your
the
ending
worst
was the
ending.
worst.
Let's talk
okay.
about your ending first.
Yeah,
'cause
yeah,
Actually,
you
no,
first.
I wanted to do worst from to the best. But since
Oh,
we're on
well,
the
you-
bad,
yours is already pretty close to my ending, just like another
No, it's
step.
actually closer to mine because
yeah,
you have
'cause
to do
it's
the same
it's
thing
the
to
bad
get to
part.
Okay. Yeah.
So you do yours first
Oh, okay.
because
So,
it's shorter.
Wait.
okay, so basically, I kept the baby, I escaped, and I went to Paris, and
Yeah,
that's the
that's,
good.
that's
So,
pretty
wait,
much
wait.
what the good ending is.
So I escaped, and that's the good ending. I keep the baby.
But is it is it a good ending because the baby died?
well, no,
No, the baby's alive.
The baby's
no,
alive
well,
there.
her
but-
previous baby died
yeah,
because of a disease.
So it's
It's a
possible that
cliffhanger.
the
You don't
it's
know if
possible
it
that the
survives or not.
baby
Okay.
is gonna die maybe sometime in the future.
So
Okay.
possibly it's not a good ending.
That's
'Cause
the best ending.
that's the
as
best
we
ending you
saw.
can get. Although probably the baby dies.
You assume the baby dies there. So maybe the only way the baby survives is if you put it in the crib.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Okay, so my ending, I got the very bad ending.
Yeah.
So, pretty much, there are these syringes you get, and I did the same thing that Caleb did, was walk with the baby outside of the room, but instead of going to the portal, I didn't realize you were supposed to just go directly to the portal,
Mhm.
and I saw that there were 4 rooms, and one of them was already destroyed, and I had 3 syringes, so I was just like, I might as well just do this. So I ran to each of the room while avoiding the goddess lady, I just destroyed each of the rooms, and then she said, "I'm sorry, little one, but this is the only way to stop her." I'm like, what did I just do? And I was just overtaken by this red stuff, and I think the baby died.
Yeah.
And there are these canisters that the people, like that the goddess lady put these people in to make this vitae stuff, and it, like, tortures them for like forever.
Yeah.
And my ending was the baby died. I was put into one of these canisters, and I was just screaming.
Yeah.
And then the credits rolled. I'm just like, what did I just do?
I put that like red stuff in 2 of the rooms. I didn't know there was a 3rd room. I put them in 2 and then I escaped through the portal because I saw the portal when I was going in the room and I was like, this is probably some sort of exit.
I think it's really interesting that all 3 of us got a different ending, and we didn't plan to get different endings.
Yeah, that's actually nice because then we actually were able to talk about it.
Yeah. So I'm really curious about Caleb's ending and my ending, because the whole game, the goddess says the baby's sick and is going to die without her help. There's one part in the game where you get this like surgery stuff done to the baby by using vitae. You actually have to construct this torture device and torture this guy to get some vitae from him. And I don't know if he dies or what, because he disappears. But then these needles get stabbed into Tassi's, like, into the baby, like, that's still inside her. And the goddess says she has a reprieve, or the baby has a reprieve from the sickness. But that's optional, so I don't know what the whole point of that section is.
I looked it up. There is nothing. It doesn't change the story at all. You just can either torture the guy and get that injected into you, or you can go to the cage.
It's kind of weird.
Yeah.
I actually got a little angry because I didn't realize it was optional, and I thought I was going to get a worse ending because of that. So I was like, wait a second. If I had known this was optional, I wouldn't have done it.
Yeah.
And I realized after the fact that I could have just avoided torturing the dude.
Yeah, no, I don't. It could have been a lie, but then again, I mean, her other child was very sick, and I think she died.
I'm pretty sure she did.
Yeah, so I mean, it could have been a lie from the Empress or whatever because, she lied to you pretty much the whole game. You know, I mean, she kept you alive, but she also inflicted all of your crew with the disease of being a ghoul or whatever you call it.
Well, at the beginning of the game, we all saw it. It literally said, as you click new game, you were not playing to win. You were playing to lose.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh.
And I wasn't sure what that meant. I kept that in mind the whole game, thinking there would be no good ending.
So technically, if you are going along the lines of that, there are no good endings.
Then the baby probably died eventually.
Most likely.
And I don't know what happened to Tassi.
Well, in the flashbacks, with her previous daughter, you see basically how she gets to like toddler age. Like her hair is longer and she's definitely older. And then she gets like really affected by the disease. She starts coughing a lot. And then I think later on they show a flashback where they're crying over the daughter. So I think the baby probably grows up a little bit and then the disease fully manifests itself.
Yeah. And another thing with my ending, which is supposedly the good ending, when they're in Paris, I mean, it just ends when they're in Paris. But we can assume that the baby's going to die. But we don't know about Tassi because I think she's still infected with that whole ghoul thing. So she could fight it off as long as she wants, but it could be to where she actually succumbs to it. But I mean,
so what makes you succumb to the ghoul disease?
Is it the whole game revolves around you getting so scared that it overtakes you. So I think that, I mean, it could be that there isn't anything scary enough in Paris to bring her to that point.
It's possible, yeah. But what happens if the baby dies? Does she just fully lose it and become a ghoul?
Yeah, it's definitely possible.
Now, the ghouls are taken down pretty easily, which I found odd because towards the beginning of the game, you find multiple soldiers dead by ghouls. And one guy took his own life because he didn't want to get killed by the ghouls. Yeah. But later on, a doctor takes out a ghoul with a single shot of a pistol.
Yeah.
So why are they so easy to kill? And if they are, how did they kill so many soldiers?
Could be just numbers. Could have been a lot of them.
That's possible. Just flooded the area.
Yeah, and then maybe the dead ones don't exactly turn because it's more of an infection that's inflicted upon them by the Empress.
Yeah.
Or something. I don't know. I thought ghouls were dead people that came alive.
So how did they get the infection? I know it's caused by the Empress, but does she inject them? Does she just put it in
Probably
their
not. It's
mind.
probably just some sort of like. Well, I mean,
It's
she's
the light, maybe.
The what?
Maybe because all of them went to the Empress before they were infected.
What do you mean?
well,
all of
she
them-
came to them.
All
Or-
the people on the plane?
Yeah.
Hmm.
Remember from the flashbacks? Like once you get towards the end, you see the flashbacks of them all talking to the Empress.
I don't
Things like
remember that one. No.
Yeah,
They weren't
she-
infected.
she
at
told
that
them.
at that point.
Well, she told them that she needed the baby because they're all infected, and then the baby would. She lied to them and said like the baby, or if they gave her the baby, then she would cure them of the disease that they have. And so Tasi didn't want that, so she ran away, and that's why all of them kind of hated her because she
Mm,
wouldn't give her baby up.
Okay.
So I don't know exactly how it's inflicted. All I know is that the Empress is the cause or caused it to happen.
So how did the baby get infected, and why does the Empress want
the
want
baby doesn't have the same infection as the ghoul.
I know, but how did the baby get that disease?
I don't know.
I have no clue.
Maybe it was in Tasi. Maybe it was like a genetic thing.
It's possible.
What I'm curious about is why did the Empress want the baby? Like, what's the
No,
point of having the baby?
She actually said she wanted to be a mother.
Huh. So maybe the baby didn't have a disease. I mean, maybe.
No, it probably did, but she was the only one that can like
Mm.
save the baby with the Vitae stuff. But at the same time, she knows that the baby's not going to survive, so it's her perfect opportunity to be a mother.
Hmm.
Actually, yeah, I think the disease was a separate disease that the Empress did not cause. I think it was just some common disease of that era that she would survive if with that treatment.
But she wanted to be a mother, so she kept the baby so she could be a mother. That's why she wanted it.
Yeah. Maybe
So-
a successor.
But did she cause
Maybe.
the plane to crash, or was that just chance?
No, she did because at the beginning of the thing, you see she looks out the window and you see flashes of the other world.
Mm,
And then after that point, that's when the plane crashed. So I think she
Mm.
brought them there,
okay.
probably because she knew that she was pregnant.
It sounds a lot like the forest. Plane
Yeah.
crashes.
True.
The monster wants to keep the child. You have the choice to either keep the child or let it die.
Yeah. I'm really excited for the second one.
Yeah.
Yes.
Did you
the
get? I think
forest.
it's the same type of thing. Although it's a helicopter. Did you guys see how it crashes?
Thing jumps
Yeah.
on it.
Yeah, it's crazy.
No,
Mhm.
people think that it was a giant hand from a massive
Oh
monster.
yeah, I saw that video.
Because like they say it like grabbed him out of the sky. Like
Because they did like the proportions
awesome.
or something
Yeah.
like that. That
How would
be
you kill that though?
I don't know.
Probably like a final boss fight where you inject
maybe
stuff.
The full SWAT. Maybe you find a way to contact like the government or something. And you get like a full SWAT
I
team
think-
to defeat it.
If that was the case, I think it would have to do with you use some sort of secret weapon or secret cure to destroy it. It wouldn't be just human,
I wonder
like normal human measures.
it's a different island, isn't it?
Yes, but people are thinking that you're gonna be able to go back to the previous.
Oh, that'd
Eh.
be so cool.
Well, I
Well,
don't
I mean,
know.
like, what was that one game that did that? Oh, Red Dead.
Red Dead. Yeah.
They just threw the old map on there just because. It's kind of cool. No, but at the end of the Forest 1, you see Timmy searching for the island.
Mhm.
But the thing is, the island he said or he had on the wall was a different island.
Hmm.
So you don't know if he got the location wrong or if he was trying to go to a different island.
maybe the island in the first game was not the place that the virus or wherever the cannibal thing came from.
It was because of the whole laboratory underneath.
Wait, was that an
yeah.
infection?
It was, yeah. You see the old experiments, the failed experiments. Remember the creatures like taking up the entire cell?
Yeah.
The mutations came from that laboratory. It's possible they spread to other laboratories or there are more laboratories.
Maybe that one has. Maybe that other island has the cure.
Possibly.
I don't know.
I don't know.
That's a really. I love the Forest.
I know.
Such a good game. Actually, I want to talk about some of the lore of the Amnesia because I think
Okay.
it's really interesting, and I think that it ties a lot into the new one, which is really important. So basically, I'm gonna exclude the second game because it doesn't really tie into anything. But the first game, basically, it follows the story of Daniel, and he takes his amnesia potion in order to forget the horrible things that he's done, because he actually was on an archaeological mission with I forget his name. Professor HP, I think his name was. Anyway, so he was on that mission and he got trapped in the area that you play in Rebirth. Remember
Hmm.
that area before the hunting grounds? So with that big thing where you have to focus the beam.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
you know
yeah.
how you go through that gate? He got trapped somewhere in there because there was that little camp set up the archaeological camp or whatever.
Oh yeah.
That's where they were set up. Daniel got trapped in there and he got closed off. He then went to the orb because it was glowing in the dark, and he went to the orb and he grabbed it. He brought it back to him, to England, I think. And after that point, he kind of lost some of his sanity, and he was like constantly like researching it and stuff like that. Well, it got to the point where he was trying to communicate with Professor HP or whatever. And do you guys remember when you first went into the New World and you go into that room and you see the dead guy with the note saying that he can't get out because he doesn't have a rift?
Oh,
thing?
the
Yeah, yeah.
archaeological guy.
That was Professor HP that was with Daniel.
Okay.
So he got lost in that eventually and he died. But so Daniel eventually goes to or gets help from this guy named Alexander. He has this big castle, and that's where the game starts. Well, actually, before the game starts. So he goes there, and since Daniel kind of lost some of his sanity, he believes what Alexander says. But Alexander has been alive for generations. Like he's been alive for a long time because he uses vitae, or how you pronounce it. Vitae is basically like this substance that you obtain from
Torturing.
from torturing. Because when someone's getting tortured and their stress levels rise, they extract the vitae from them or something. So Alexander convinces Daniel to help him in torturing tons of people, and Alexander tells him that they're horrible people, criminals that like murder tons of people. By the end of the game, you figure out that they're innocent people, and you've been torturing people. I mean, the first game is very disturbing, torturing people in the worst ways possible in the dungeons, and they're innocent. So then Alexander locks himself up, and then Daniel drinks the amnesia potion in order to forget all the horrible things that he's done, and the only thing he writes is "kill Alexander." That's where the start of the game happens. You wake up, you don't know anything that's happened to you, and you get the note, and now you know just kill Alexander. But what's cool about the first game is that the reason that they have the amnesia potion is because when they would torture someone and get the vitae, that person would basically be like devoid of vitae. So they give them the amnesia potion so they can forget, so that they can torture them all over again.
That's
it's like
creepy.
It's very disturbing. So anyway, Daniel is recorded in Rebirth. So in that archaeological camp, they say Daniel's trapped in the thing.
Oh,
and
okay, yeah.
And Daniel has like his duties or whatever like that. So it's actually really interesting how that ties in. In the first game, the orb is referenced a lot, and you have to build the orb in the first game. And
So wait, that's where the people were going.
yeah, they're in the same place that Daniel was at.
Oh.
And in the first game, there's also that red flesh stuff.
Yeah.
That's after Daniel too. I
Okay.
don't know the motive of that thing, whatever it is, but
I think that comes from injecting a certain substance into the vitae.
Yeah, because
It appears.
when you injected it into the thing that powers the vitae
Yeah.
maker, the red stuff.
It's called the shadow. Or whatever. It has some sort of motive it wanted to stop Daniel from getting from the orb.
Huh.
But
So
they
it's
also,
alive?
Yeah.
That's weird.
So what also in the first game they talk about the lady, and she's like the mother of all. So she's the creator of everything or
So
something.
the Empress.
Yeah, that's who she is. And,
So
and-
in Rebirth, when I killed her, it initially like shut down everything.
yeah. So
But who put you back in the vitae machine?
I
Yeah,
don't
true.
know.
I don't know about that.
Maybe the ghouls.
No, the ghouls weren't smart.
Oh, true.
It would probably be those seeker people that look for you
Probably,
and
yeah.
put people in there. That was their job, was watching over those people and extracting the vitae.
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe they wanted to keep the thing going after the Empress died.
It's possible, yeah.
I don't know.
But if that's the case, then it means, well, what did your sacrifice do? You're trapped for however long, eternity maybe, and the Empress is dead, but the place is still running.
Yeah.
Like, what does that mean
Yeah.
for the history?
Yeah,
I don't
the orb.
know. But yeah, so the lady is listed in the first game. It follows some sort of religion. I don't know exactly what it's called, but it's really interesting and what's it called? But yeah, so a lot of what happens in Rebirth is actually expounding upon the lore of the first game. So you actually get to see the other world. You get to know where the orbs come from, and you get to see all the past archaeological camps that were that were a part of the first game story.
Wait, was that in a cutscene in the first game, or did you actually get to initially go through that place?
No, a lot of it was notes. The whole
Oh.
first game takes place in the castle. Just terrifying. I want to play the first game because it looks really scary.
That actually comes back to what we said in the beginning, was that if you played the first game or play it first, you'll appreciate Rebirth a whole lot more.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, I saw one guy play through it and he was like, "Oh, this is I don't know, ties into this and this ties into this," and he was just like, it was really exciting for him because he was able to play through the whole thing and actually see the ties.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, in the older games, I think the first game, I don't think they added it in Machine for Pigs. One main thing, because I actually didn't really watch PewDiePie play Amnesia, but I've heard one big thing about the first Amnesia game was mod support.
Really?
I remember that. There were custom games you could play. People would make their own maps
Mhm.
for Amnesia, and that's what PewDiePie mostly played. Was after he beat the initial story, he would play Amnesia a lot. That's partially why it became so popular, because he would play it constantly.
They're adding mod support to Rebirth.
Well, I wonder how that's gonna work out.
And I remember Smosh was playing Amnesia too.
Hmm.
There was that one monster in the first game in the water. You just see like the ripples of the water as it comes after you.
Yeah.
That reminds me of Little Nightmares with the shoes.
Yeah. Mhm.
And they didn't have anything like that in Rebirth, which was
There
kind of
wasn't really
disappointing.
anything unique. I mean, it was unique. I do say that, but I'm just saying,
The
after a
ghouls-
while, it just was like,
the ghouls were generic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And people would have liked the game a lot more. I know we would for
Mhm.
sure if we had played Dark Descent.
But imagine,
Oh, yeah.
imagine in the mod support in Rebirth if they like maybe created new creatures, or
If they put the creatures from the first game in,
Yeah, that's what I was saying, or
Yeah.
the creatures from previous games,
Hmm.
then it could be better. Like imagine if they do a mod support for, like, you go to the place in Soma, you have to hide from those creatures or something like that. I don't know. They could do anything with it.
Yeah. I wonder how they would, if they were to make maps. I wonder what the setting. I mean, I don't know. I guess I can do anything really.
Yeah,
mean,
pretty much.
people would make their own stories.
Yeah.
They'd put their own notes down. They'd put their own environments, put objects in there.
Hmm.
It looked really cool. And actually, honestly, before I played Amnesia, I thought it was a game full of custom games. I didn't
Really?
realize there was a full story. Yeah.
Huh.
I thought it was just like a whole bunch of player created games in one.
Hmm.
Kind of like a Gary's mod, but just for horror.
Yeah.
That would be kind of cool if they did that. Wait, I was gonna say, what if they did like a standalone that would do that? But
No, that's what mod support would
yeah,
do.
exactly. That's what I was thinking.
Hmm.
But
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to seeing what the people do with
Yeah.
mods.
Yeah, I'm curious about that. I mean, it seems like kind of just a what's it called? Linear game. I mean, I never really think of like linear games like that having mod support and seeing what it can do, but I think it'd be interesting.
Yeah.
Um,
Different mechanics,
Yeah.
different maps.
yeah.
Could change it up a lot.
Mhm.
I mean, you wouldn't have voice acting, but you would have the silent protagonist, and you could look at the notes that are written by players.
Yeah. That's really cool actually.
Yeah.
But the game has a ton of lore.
It does.
And like I said, this game really just expounds upon the lore of the first game. You get to see everything that you weren't able to see. You explore the location that Daniel came from, the location where everything basically started.
Okay, that
Mhm.
makes more sense.
And you get to see the other world where in the first game all you knew was that there was this lady that's like the creator or something like that. So you get to see her and actually battle her or whatever.
Yeah. Well, if you do Chug's ending.
Well, yeah.
Is there anything else we wanted to cover on this section?
I think
we
that's
pretty
it,
much
actually.
covered it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's sad that we're on their last Halloween one.
Yeah. I mean, we might do a Soma podcast. I want to finish that
I'd
game,
be-
and I'd be down to do a Soma podcast.
Yeah, I'd be up for that.
The ending is so good.
Yeah,
Um,
I want to play that because you told me the ending was amazing. So
Yeah.
If you guys want to see more series like this, in the future, then you should give us a suggestion or say something in the Discord server,
Mhm.
Which is on our website at CuboldGaming.com.
or even comment on one of our YouTube videos too.
Yeah.
If you can't join the server,
Yeah. But
join in for one of our live streams. We stream
Yes.
3 times a week.
yeah.
My live stream yesterday was terrible because their
Well, that was
that was my
internet connection
yeah.
problems.
yeah,
but-
that was weird. Or I mean, I don't know. I don't get what's up with that. It might even be YouTube.
No,
I mean, no, it was yours
wasn't,
because
'cause
you
JJ tried his and it was
Oh.
like 90 megabytes per second upload or something.
Hmm.
And mine was like 0.5.
Oh wow.
It was
Oh
ridiculous.
wow.
Yeah, his was bad. I don't know why.
That's so weird.
It only happens when you're trying to stream.
Yeah, literally, it's annoying.
Thanks everyone for listening, and we'll see you in the next episode.